Hello and welcome to the Borealis Experience. I'm your host Aurora and I'm very happy and excited to have Michael Kappeler with me today. It is an honor to have him here because I was able to see what his mission is all about, what he's trying to make people aware of. And I'm just so very touched about what Michael is doing. It is very important work. We will dive into what Michael is doing in a second here. But to start with, I wanted to remind you that, we're all in this together. We're going through intense stuff at the moment, and it is not fun. It is not fun. There's lots of uncertainty, lots of pain, lots of involuntary change that is being forced upon us. And before COVID, there was people struggling already. So think about what COVID now amplified and more pain it brought in. I must say, though, that COVID also brought a lot of beauty and like extraordinary people out. You know, there's people who under pressure fold and just go into fetal position and are numb. And there's other people who rise up to the challenges and see that they have something inside of them to support others, to give others hope. And I want to say, I don't really know Michael yet. I will get to know him a little better. But he is one of those warriors who, during COVID times, was able to create something that brings incredible value to our society. So welcome to the show. I'm honored to be speaking to you today, Michael. If you would like to, introduce yourself a little bit and share your story with us, the more you go into detail, the better it is, of course, but you stay in your comfort zone. And I would love to know what led you to this beautiful mission that you are pursuing today.
Well, first of all, thank you for your beautiful introduction. I appreciate that. And I can appreciate you highlighting a little bit more extreme of difficult times for people post-COVID, right? Obviously, everybody's going through something that's kind of a natural human experience prior to COVID. I think I like how you worded it, right? The amplitude, the level has definitely increased. So in saying that, my experience has actually kind of, I want to say, almost exploded since COVID in a positive way. My spiritual journey has very opened up. My spiritual journey has started through addiction. I'm a recovering alcoholic addict myself. And I first walked through the doors of recovery in 2008 and had 3 years of sobriety, got away from it, and continued back to that old lifestyle of drinking and using and everything that comes with it, right? Ultimately pain for me and everybody around me, right? Watching. And then through enough pain, walking back through the doors again of recovery and through a spiritual process, getting well. I use the word spiritually fit. And for a number of years. Part of my story is getting away from it again and returning to the drink and the drug. And to simplify me returning to that drink and the drug, there's a spiritual walk that was presented to me through a process of the 12 steps that gave me a foundation. And as we live, human beings, there's a fulfillment, I think, that we all seek, not just with addicts and alcoholics. that fulfillment has started being filled in recovery, right? And however you want to word it, whether you use God, a higher power, source, the universe, something bigger than me, right? A creator. That had filled a void. But it's a daily thing, right? And the shiny things of the world would grab my attention: money, material stuff, relationships. And that's where I would steer off. So I'd mentioned twice, going back to the drink and the drug. Life got good, and I really got separated from my true self, and got caught up in the worldly things. And those have been my downfall. So in saying that, by no reason am I saying there's nothing wrong with succeeding in life, having nice things, being successful financially, materialistically, all that. There's nothing wrong with that. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to be a cop out of not saying to be successful in life, but it's what my motives are behind it, right? What is really going on here, right? So, I talked about some obsessions of, car, money, even physical. I was addicted to the gym and would get into, trying to think of a better word, but I guess I'm just going to say like steroids and those enhancements, artificial enhancements, is trying to fill this inner void, right? So there's nothing wrong with working out in the gym and being healthy, right? There's nothing wrong with having a nice car. There's nothing wrong with having a nice relationship. There's nothing wrong with being financially secure. But what I found as a common denominator is we tend to go after those things in extreme. We all know the disease of more, right? I need more. It's never enough, right? I have this vision. If I have that, I'll be happy, right? And I strive and I strive and I grind it out, and I'm manipulating, and I'm maybe even lying. And so me, I can't keep doing that stuff. Eventually I'm going to drink because I burn out inside. Self-hatred might be extreme, but I like the term. I'm an egomaniac with an inferiority complex problem. So I'm trying to build this ego, right? I'm trying to build this outside stuff, but inside, the more I do that, the more low I feel about myself, right? The low self-esteem, just the insecurities pile up, and the self-worth pile up. So in saying all that, I'm trying to relate to, addicts and alcoholics, because that seems to be a common denominator. I think as human beings, we all can relate to that, but I find the experience of alcoholics and addicts, it's usually, that's on an extreme level, right? There's no balance, right? It's just all or nothing. So, this last couple of years, my foundation of a spiritual way of living is, it's always been recovery. There's spiritual principles that I practice, and I grow from that, right? But it's a daily thing, and something like I like to try to simplify for people. It's like, I've had this concept of, I've been sober for a few years, and I've sponsored people, and I've done this and I've done that, putting on step groups, and I've done all this stuff. And I almost say that I've gained a spiritual bankroll, look at how good I've done in the last year and a half. Let Mikey, little Mikey, tend to himself for a bit, right? A little selfish, and we're all selfish, but like I said, it can get to extreme levels as an addict and alcoholic. And so I start to fuel those selfish needs, or what I think I need, and not to get away from what I was saying. Yeah, kind of bankrolling this, I've done all this stuff. So for me, I have to say, what am I doing today for my spiritual well-being, right? It's a daily thing for me. So this may sound extreme, but I tell myself, it doesn't matter what I did yesterday. It doesn't matter how connected I was with my higher self, my source. I like to choose the word God. But whatever resonates for you. It doesn't matter how connected I was, what I was doing to help others. I tell myself, it doesn't matter about yesterday. It's what am I doing today, right? So I think that kind of lays out a gist of kind of my life prior, in the middle. Today, it's kind of, there's all or nothing, right? I use this analogy as like, my spiritual journey. I had this long leash for a while where I could, steer off. And I've mentioned, the shiny stuff. Getting away into self-centered stuff, whether I'm lying or just doing things that are crossing that internal boundary and other people's boundaries, right? It's that leash for me today. It's so tight, like I can't afford to steer off. So a lot of people, we have grace, right? And I mean, I certainly have a level of grace. I'm human, I'm not perfect. But it's very tightened up. So I'm very focused of my recovery, my spiritual way of living is it's really all or nothing. So I got to be all in today for me. I'm certainly not speaking for everybody in recovery. Everybody has their own journey. So it's kind of cool, to get into where I'm at today. If someone is to ask, what's different for you today? You mentioned about being sober before. What's different? There's a lot of people that are skeptical. I had years of sobriety before. So it doesn't really matter what I say to a lot of people. I have to show them. But if somebody is to ask me what is different, I have a deeper surrender. I have more of an effortless way about my life. I'm more present. I'm careful with somebody new in recovery and saying effortless, because there is things we need to do to build this foundation. So I feel through that process that I've gone through, I do have that foundation's built a little bit better than it was when I first walked into recovery. So my way of life's a little bit more effortlessly, and I watch things as they come, right? So things come to me a little bit more. I'm able to be more present and separate myself from those selfish attitudes or, needs or wants, or the thinks I should, or I better do this and I better do that. I'm more okay today with me. So when I say that, I'm involved in recovery. One of my main goals of being in recovery is to help the other suffering alcoholic addict, right? As I've been helped by so many, like amazingly. And I could, fill an hour easily of what people have done for me and have supported me, right? Like it's got to be highlighted. So this is just kind of giving back, right? It's not really about me in a way. Because I've been so freely given. So in saying that, just through some events, I was I had an opportunity to do some outreach work for an organization in my town. It's actually a local organization in the Fraser Valley, but there's branches. And I think I'm okay saying PCRS, so Pacific Community Resource Center. And they offer all kinds of things like counseling, low-income housing programs around like the homeless and drug addiction. But we did this, and then I was involved in doing outreach. That was what I was attracted in, helping them, doing just outreach in the homeless aspect that we have, which has grown, I think, everywhere, definitely in the Fraser Valley, definitely in my community. So I've reached out to them and just, connecting with the people on the streets with the motive, if there's any chance of helping anybody, right? So in doing that, they came to me, PCRS, and said, hey, we're doing a project about getting awareness. We're all aware of the addiction pandemic, the opioid crisis, the overdose crisis on the street level. We all can see it daily, right? But there's been a spike post-COVID behind closed doors and overdoses. So I did do a 3-video series. One was just kind of a trailer of what we were getting at. So the second video was 2 paramedics that showed their story of going into homes where overdoses has happened, right? And we were targeting the 25 to 45-year-old male aspect, which I fit in because although I was close to being on the street, I'm fortunate enough where I've always had a roof over my head for the most part. So I fit that category, right? As the addict, somewhat functioning, still hanging on to my job by strings at the end. So we targeted that category. And so the paramedics did a video and then I did a video. And I'm definitely getting better at it, but very video shy. There's a lot of root insecurities that stem right from a child, right? Fear of what people think of me, fear of not being liked, fear of failing, and not to get off track, but I'm well aware of that stuff today through inventories and have processes where I check that and challenge that stuff today, right? But anyway, back to the fear of being on video. Yeah, I was a little nervous about it, but it went well. And why did it go well? From my point, because I just suited up and showed up, right? I just got to be honest, right? Open-minded and willing, right? And so we did this video, and then the local paper did an article on it, and it got a little bit of buzz in the community, and I got a lot of positive feedback. And I enjoyed the process. I enjoyed the experience. So in saying that, probably there was, from when we recorded the video to where it actually went out into the public, was probably about a 3-month span. So I had some time with it, and probably about a month after the video was like released into the public forum, like YouTube, and the paper did the process. Like I'd mentioned before, I have a routine I do in the mornings, right? I do some readings and some meditating, and this thought come to my mind, kind of creating a show of highlighting the positive aspect of recovery. And I know of a program that's out there, and I watch it, that the root of it is a positive thing for sure. I can never take that away from it, but it really focuses on the negativity of an addict alcoholic, and that's kind of the whole show, is showing this part. And there's maybe 5 minutes of coming together and trying to help this addict, and then the credits at the end of the show, that you kind of see, did they make it or did they not make it, right? And there's very little of the positive end of it, and other than that, I haven't seen a lot of stuff focusing on the positive, right? We all know the negative, like every which way, and it touches everybody's lives, right? So I just had a concept, and then I have patterns of obsessing about things, right? And these great ideas. And so after a day of kind of excited about this idea and maybe sharing it with a few people that are close to me, I just kind of let it be and thought, you know what, Mike, yeah, right, you're going to make a TV show. Yeah, you're going to make a TV show, and kind of chuckled about it. And I let it be. And then, a week or so, I continued to get these nudges. So I started writing things down, like, how I would lay it out. Some questions of, what is it about, right? Really briefly, some of those questions, what would it be about? Why did I decide to make the show? What does it mean to me personally? Who's the show intended for? Why is it important for a show to be made like this, right? And what is my goal in making the show? And so it was neat to see these things kind of come together, because I believe they were kind of divinely, guided, right? And that's intuition that I think many of us can relate to, right? When we get connected, get awake. So that was cool. And I shared it with a few people, and I got some polite smiles. Great idea. And once again, it was like, yeah, and part of me is like, mainstream TV, as far as I believe, I don't think it's going to show something like that, right? You don't see spirituality, talk of God or a higher power. You don't see that stuff. And so I just kind of let it be again. And then I was nudged some more. So I shot it out to a few contacts, like the PCRS and a couple people that I know that do filming, right, for their profession, just kind of some small time stuff, right? And some other people that I thought might be interested, and got positive feedback, and ultimately just came down where you'd need some funds to get something like this going, right? And I couldn't support that at this moment, raising a family and just with the cost of living today, right? So just kind of put it on the back burner again. And about a month later, a friend of mine, who's been a friend of mine for years, but we haven't been really close lately. Um, he's not in recovery, but he's on a spiritual journey himself too, right? Pretty awake and connected. And so he reached back to me and he's like, dude, he's like, I keep getting nudged about this thing. I think you got something here, right? And this would just be such a positive thing for the times. And so he goes, I'd be willing to put a promo video with you together and just highlight the motive behind this, the ideas, and see if we can set like a GoFundMe page up and just see what we can do. So yeah, we launched that the day you and me connected, and we're over halfway. We wrote down a budget, what we thought, and all that budget is I mean, for me, being in recovery and that there's no money motivation behind it. Recovery, once you mix this is my experience, and I know we have a whole professional field and the level, and that's not my experience, and I'm not knocking it. I know nothing about it, very little about it. But in my experience, you can't mix money with recovery. It just doesn't work. That's my experience. So I'm not saying, there's lots of teachers and stuff like that out there. I just know for me, I think if I start mixing those two together, I'm in trouble. So it's not about money for me. My partner involved in the project, I mean, I feel, and he said too, like, I do this as a job, right? So it's for production costs, travel, and I'd like to compensate the guests a little bit, right? For their time and maybe meals for the day and stuff like that. So that's kind of where we got that budget from. People might be asking, where's this number coming from? Why, right? And so it's something I really want to highlight. That's where that number is coming from, right? There's some rental costs too, because he doesn't have everything we need, as in the sense of multiple mics and stuff like that. So we've sat down, we've put some thought to this, right? It's not completely being winged, but yeah. So I've gotten a lot of positive feedback, and like I said, we're kind of halfway there on the budget. Yeah, I'll just kind of keep riding the wave. So I think I'll probably take a break from talking now and let you share a little bit.
Ay. This is crazy. I mean, I knew this conversation was going to be good, but you're really blowing me away. And
well, thank you.
Just from an outsider's perspective, like I can see clear as day why you had to keep going through suffering and pain and getting yourself out of it again, because I feel your energy as a leader and as a healer and as someone who's gonna bridge the gap and help people understand addiction better, people who are not close in contact with addiction, but maybe I feel in every family there is an addict or someone who wants to break out of the system and be a pioneer and help to understand these precious beings better. And what I also see in you is that you can be a fierce leader of youngsters. So not only people who are struggling already and helping them to recover, but the way you speak, you are so open and honest with your stuff, with your dark side, that most people who never went through intense pain or addiction, they don't have that access to those feelings and words. And you are so authentic and real with your pain that I was really close to be crying here. And I know that will be able, that tool can be used to help people who are, maybe still before the state of drifting off. They still have a decision to make. Oh, am I go with the big money and the bling bling, or do I want to go into into depth, and do I want to get to know myself better before I make any decisions in my
Well said.
future? So I can see all this in you. It is just a matter of time for you to see it yourself. And I'm so excited about, yeah, the ideas that you have there. And I feel it's time. Like, don't waste any time, and don't self-doubt. Don't wait for too much approval from the outside.
Yeah.
You just need a small wolf pack that you can rely on,
I love that.
and then go ahead, because your energy is needed out there. And yeah, it's very precious what you shared already with us. I have one question. When it comes to addiction, like, or let's just speak about your experience, because you said it is your self-worth, it is your like, you have a complex not being seen and understood, or not feeling worthy. Do you sometimes go back in time and try to rewrite your story, like to know that, yes, you went through the pain back then, you made conclusions about yourself that are not correct anymore, and how to let those go, how to redefine yourself? Are you like, can you relate?
Oh yeah, 100%.
Yeah.
100%. I can answer that question.
Mm-hmm.
Beautiful question, by the way. I touched it briefly in the sense of I can go back, obviously, being at that young age then, not understanding what's going on, but I can look back. And one of the great things about a recovery process is doing, I call like an inventory, right? So we're diving deep, and it's not so much, I mean, you've got to start by looking at the things that we've done, the way we've reacted to things, and the way we've acted out. That's the surface stuff, right? And for sure, we have to start there. But then it's like getting under it, right? And so through some inventory work, and from finally turning in, and I'll say this, not to get off to answering your question, but I think it's helpful to others. A huge turning point in my life, and I think this is for any human being, not just an alcoholic or addict. Turning point for me, I'm getting shivers as I say this. My whole life, for most of my youth life, I was pointing my finger out there. You know, if that changed, I'd be better. Whether it's the relationship, the boss, I had more money, a new place to live. If that guy pissed off and left me alone, and on and on and on. I did that for 30 years. So a huge turning point for me was looking inside, right? And really grasping the concept of nothing outside of me needs to change. I need to change. My perception needs to change. I have a disease that starts in the mind. And then maybe many people can relate to this. I say disease because I was in need of a psychic change, right? So to go back to asking your beautiful question, I can look back through this process of inventory work and remember when I was 5 and 6 years old, and being so self-conscious of my looks and what people thought of me. And I know I mentioned this stuff, so just bear with me. Fear of failing, fear of what people thought of me. There's so many fears of what everybody was thinking, and the professional level can relate that stuff to like social anxiety and stuff like that. So I'm just going to try to simplify it for me, how it was easy for me to understand. And that stuff just grew, right? It just grew. I believed it. And I'm not putting blame on anybody, because everybody goes through this stuff. But, when somebody said, Mike, you're chubby, I mean, I that just grew in me, right? Or, anything negative. Like, here's a simple way of saying it. There was a time in my life where I could spit off 1,000 insults, or at least what I perceived to be insults. Bang, like that. How many compliments could I lay out? None. Do you think I never got compliments? Of course I did. Maybe even more. But I didn't believe them. I believed the insults. I believe the negative stuff, and half of that negative stuff, when I say 1,000, insults or situations, half of them probably I created them in my head just with assumptions and thinking that's what people are meaning and stuff like that. Right. So I don't want to get too deep in that, but I hope that kind of makes sense. So getting back, that stuff just grew. So for me, I don't know if that stuff would have ever have changed if I didn't walk through the doors of recovery. And then in recovery, I was forced to wake up. And what do I mean by waking up? Well, one of the first levels of waking up is I started watching myself, right? I started watching the thoughts. And that's not real. That's not true. So today, those stuff may still pop up, right? You sit when I talk about meditating. Well, meditating for me certainly isn't sitting in a lotus position with no thoughts for 3 hours. That ain't meditating for me. Meditating is sitting upright, somewhat comfortably, and focusing on breathing, but watching those thoughts. And 90% of them are stories, not real.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, for me, meditation is the same. It started with being a torture. Like I thought, are you kidding me? Like everybody is so calm and peaceful here in the yoga studio, and I just want to rip things apart and run out. And to sit with that energy, to sit with what is constantly with you anyways, and now you're becoming aware of it, is so shitty painful. It is so crazy. But yeah, kudos to you. We are still doing it. Yeah, we're still meditating and sitting through it. And it's that's why.
Practice.
Practice.
Not getting discouraged. So when I hear a story like that, you relating to the noise at the beginning and comparing yourself to others, I so relate to that, right? And I think that comparing myself and this expectation, that stuff, I've got to challenge that stuff, eh?
Yeah, totally. And you haven't gone through that pain now. You can automatically relate to me and feel empathy, right? You attracted me into your life. This is why we're sitting here. And you will do that with so many more people. And I hope that you can see also that addiction and recovery is awesome, like to focus on, and is really needed. But you can even go beyond and help people who struggle with burnout and depression, and people who just went through divorce and are going crazy in their minds, right? You can help so many people, but you had to go through that pain first, unfortunately, fortunately, to be able to relate now and to be able to forgive yourself and live your purpose. It's very like tough probably at the beginning to see, oh shit, I've been a victim for my whole life and I'm actually supposed to be a leader. But it's also incredibly empowering and necessary for guys like you to step out there and to become the leaders, because what my mission of my podcast is here is to put the spotlight onto heart-driven leaders, away from ego-drivenness and money-drivenness. Money is good. Money will be your outcome and your reward and everything, but it should never be like your main focus. And
the motive.
For you, it is not. So you have kids, you said. You have 2 sons, is that correct?
Yes.
Okay.
I have 4 total, boys, 2 girls.
Oh, cool. Very, very cool. Yeah, I hope you guys have an awesome time together and they are proud of you. My question is, having kids, I don't have kids, but if I was comparing myself to you, you went through pain, through struggle, you're building yourself up now, you're creating something beautiful. In your kiddos, do you see that you sometimes like try to overly protect them from going onto that path? Or is it easy to trust because you see that you can help them and guide them into the right direction. How is it for you as a parent to not like project your experience onto them, first of all? And second, if you were to see that they have similar tendencies, how can you help them? Like, how can you give them the tools that maybe you didn't have back then?
Wow, this is this question is awesome. How much time do I have? Like, I don't want to kind of ramble on. Can I have like about 5 minutes, or we gotta kind of get
I'll wave at
cutting
you.
close here?
I'll wave at you when
Okay.
getting close. Yeah.
And why I say that, it's I don't believe in coincidences. I'm actually having a learning lesson as a parent, and I'm kind of coming out of something. And so, being in recovery, having a spiritual journey, getting awake, and just once again really functioning in society as being a human being on, the worldly level, on the spiritual level, right? So I've caught myself basically kind of parenting my children. And this is something I'm just coming out of. So we had a couple years of this, of parenting my children as I was parenting me. So, nothing wrong. Like, we have some pretty awesome conversations. I have a 16-year-old and a 13-year-old, and we can have some pretty deep conversations. But what finally, and they taught me this, it was them actually pointing it out. But what I caught myself doing is I was trying to parent myself, right? So once again, having balance, right? So there's no problem, with teaching them, getting them awareness about addiction and, this life of trying to fulfill things and with wrong motives and trying to show them to be generally a good human being. But I was coming at it as if I was parenting myself, and something hit me one day where getting back into that balance level of, they're their own personalities, they're their own people, and anybody with children sits them for a half hour and go, wow, where did that come from, right? Whether they're a toddler or an 18-year-old and everything in between. Yeah, they've physically come from the woman and the father, but they're their own thing, hey, they're their own beings, and so when I say balance, I share my story and I'll share my mistakes, and hopefully they don't do them. But the implementation that I was parenting myself, so, being all over them, making sure that they're not going to go in any little avenue of what I did when I was a youth, I've stepped back from that and letting more of them be. They're going to make their mistakes. They're going to go through their trials and tribulations, right? And of course, in saying that, there's the balance. Obviously, I'm not neglecting my children, and not part of their life, but I'm also not over them and smothering them. The word you used, right? It's letting them find their way, right? And maybe my way I think they should be isn't their way, right? So hopefully I didn't go off too much there, but I love that question. Hopefully I answered your question.
No, you totally did. Like, it's very interesting how every father would answer this question differently, and I love what you say. Like, we can all learn from this. I think as a father, it's probably hardest. Like you say, they come from you physically, so you kind of assume, oh yeah, they must be like me.
Yeah.
But then to step back and to know, like, no, they're actually their own personality, but they can still learn from you so much.
Totally.
Especially if you're leading by example, right? That's the most powerful thing.
Perfect.
Yeah, it's the only thing.
Perfect.
It's the only thing, because everything that a parent is trying to teach a child and not living at the same time is for the garbage, I believe. And it's very inspiring how you approach it and how open-minded you are about it, and yeah, very evolved. I just love that so much. Is there anything else we would like to add to this episode, or did we cover everything? I want to make sure to put the links to your videos, the link to your Facebook page into the show notes.
Yeah, please do.
How else can people reach you? How else can we make sure that more people hear about your mission?
Yeah, I'm pretty active on Facebook. I can shoot you my email. I'll message that to you later. I'll also shoot you the other video I did for that PCRS, because I think a good point in that video is we were really shedding light on what the family member or the friend who's watching an addict kill themselves through addiction. What are some of their options? How can they approach it? And I think that's powerful for people. So I'm going to send you that video too. Yeah. Can I say something real quick?
Yes.
And being in the recovery world, or whatever you want to call it, community, one thing that continuously comes up, and I want to share, people always talk about shame and guilt, and they go, shame and guilt, I feel so much shame and guilt. And you can feel that, just as a regular human being, or, sober. And we all can relate. We have this mindset, yeah, I feel guilty, or I feel shameful. And something I want to pass on to people out in, anybody, but definitely people in recovery, because shame and guilt comes up so much because of people's past. It's something that I've learned to process, because I've been that person, for example, that's driven, I'm driving downtown and I see something and it triggers me, and I think back of something I'd done that was not very good, right? And I'd sit there and I just pull it in, and that's who I am. And sometimes I would curse at myself and say, you effing loser, Mike, and just would believe that, right? So I've come today to learn to separate healthy guilt. This is the way I describe it. Maybe on a professional level, this doesn't make sense. But the way I describe it is I've come to differentiate healthy guilt from feeling shameful. So I say that there's healthy guilt, and healthy guilt is good. So shameful is that example. I'm driving down the road. I think of something that I did in the past, and I'm believing it, and I'm telling myself I'm a loser, this and that. Well, that's just destroying my self-esteem and confidence, right? And that is such a pattern in addiction, right? Whereas healthy guilt, that same situation comes up, and I can go, yeah, I did that. I cleaned that up. I made that amends, or the ultimate is I don't do that today. I'm not that person. I've made an amends. I'm not doing those things today. That is not who I am. So I challenge that, right? Because a lot of us can get trapped in that and believing that's who we are. And through a process, like I mentioned, the inventory and a spiritual awakening, we can start challenging that stuff. And it's not an overnight thing, right? So it's like, I don't do that stuff today. It's not who I am. I've made amends for those things, and I've cleaned things up. And thank you very much. So healthy guilt and shamefulness, there's a difference.
Wow. That is, like, you just threw the most valuable tool at us that we can all use.
Thank you.
Again, like, we all have done stuff in the past.
Yeah, everybody.
And that is something that we can use, because otherwise it's like a vicious cycle. I feel shame, and then I go back to the drinking, go back to the shitty behavior, because I don't want to feel that shame. And now what you just gave us is to break up that vicious cycle and to be accountable, to learn from the mistake, but not to live in this poisonous, these poisonous shame feelings anymore that kind of keep us in that very low energy. So incredible ending. Wow. Thank you so much for pulling that out of your toolbox. Very valuable. And from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for making the time today, for pouring your heart out, for making us see you. Your energy is incredible, and I'm just personally very, very happy that we connected.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Aurora. I really appreciate this opportunity. And I was a little skeptical at the beginning of it when you first talked about it. And you've blown me away with your motive and your intent. And I'm just so grateful. You're a beautiful soul, like just absolutely. So I thank you so much. Yeah.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you.
Well, I really hope you enjoyed this interview. I totally enjoyed the conversation. And yeah, I will make sure to put the video links into the show notes. You can contact Mike on Facebook, or if you have any questions, any comments, never hesitate and shoot me a message on Aurora Eggert, my Facebook page. Also, a note, if you are struggling right now, if you feel like you need to talk about your stuff, and counseling and visiting a psychotherapist is not, really necessary at the moment. You just need someone to talk to, need someone to guide you on your path. Then please contact me and ask me to send you my calendar link so that we can schedule a 60-minute intro call where I can figure out if I can help you with stuff that you're going through right now. I'm a love and life coach and would love to assist you whenever you feel like you need a neutral person to talk to. All right. Take really good care of yourself, and I'll see you down the road. I'll be out there very soon again. Bye-bye.